You are watching the Polcast. Good afternoon, North America. It is Monday, November 4th, the eve of Election Day. But not for us. Because it's election season for us. Welcome to the Polcast. My name's Mike. I want to first and foremost apologize for the last episode I put out. I'm still rusty working out the kinks. And I may have had a little nip or two. So I was a little agitated, a little worked up. Forgive me for venting and maybe using a little more profanity than what I usually would do. But I have had a massive butterfly in my stomach for quite some time now. And I know there's a lot of people out there that can relate to what it is I'm talking about. The unknown. Now, it's not that I fear what's about to happen, not directly. I mean, I am thinking about my children and their future and, what it means for them. Because on one side of it, you have an individual that's not perfect, very flawed, very arrogant. My election was probably run the best election you're ever going to see. Melania, she was great. Jared Kushner, not a fan. And then on the other side, you have somebody that is somewhat unproven at this level, the level that the position she's trying to acquire, in the way in how she moved up the ladder, and the people she surrounds herself with. My dad always said, show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. You say, well, she's running for the president. Well, it's true because, it's true, in the words of Gavin Douchebag Newsom, another Californian. But it wasn't like she was, selling Girl Scout cookies and doing the right thing. I find that hard to believe. She was handing out sweets. So Willie Brown about that, to say the least. But she was the first one off the stage in the debates leading up to the election, 2020. She didn't even garner 1% of the vote. And all of a sudden, she is the number two. I really can kind of say the number one because she's already in the White House. She's there already. They keep talking about Trump as if he's never been there, but he has a track record as well. He was there for 4 years. So they cannot say that. And I'm going to bring up this first slide. And let me just backtrack a little bit. This is to just a little intro. I'm going to show a couple quick slides, and then I have an interview of my sister who has firsthand actual direct knowledge, was there, experienced it, the corruption, or at a minimum something that doesn't sound right. And really, what I'm trying to paint is just a picture of one portion or one piece of the puzzle. One metro area, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there's like 30 other metro areas that are just like this, that have the corruption like this. So I wanted to share that interview because, she's a single mom with 3 kids and worked for a company that she thought she had longevity in, and they screwed her over. In a city that's supposedly supposed to be for minorities and the working woman, they dropped her like a dirty diaper. So I wanted to share that with you. But before I do that, I do want to share a couple slides with you just to kind of this is it really. This is the last hurrah before we breach the door. And just to kind of point out who this person is, well, she's lied about multiple things. You know, even something as simple as working at McDonald's. Why do you have to lie about stuff like that? Or I'm down with the struggle because I'm from Oakland. I was hanging out in Oakland. No, you weren't. You graduated from high school in British Columbia, I believe. In addition to that, you know, I'm so tired of hearing about reparations and that crap. Well, maybe she needs to pay some reparations because her family, they were slave owners in Jamaica. Pass on review, man. So keep that in mind when you're in the voting booth. And good old Willie Brown, there he is. He was married, by the way, when they were fooling around. She's a cheater. Her husband, Doug, the first douche, he's a cheater. I'm not saying that, well, you have to be perfect. No. But these are signs. These are red flags. And for my black brothers and sisters, which I am part black as well, I think we all are. You look at those numbers of something like possession of marijuana. That's, I believe, legal in 35 states. It's not going to pass here in Florida as far as recreational. I wouldn't sign for it anyway, because if I can't grow it myself, screw that. I don't trust what they're putting in the dank these days. I ain't seen a seed in bud in about a decade. That's weird to me. Because if it grows, it should have some kind of seed. I mean, even mushrooms, they're a fungus, but they drop spores. It's kind of like a seed, you know? And the other thing is she laughs too much. I can't stand that damn cackle, you know? And criminal's gonna criminal, you know what I'm saying? Birds of the same feather flock together. You know, like ICE releasing during her time in the White House. Remember, she's been there for the last 4 years. So, when is it updated? October 3rd, 2024. ICE released over 435,000 migrants with criminal convictions, data shows. Murderers were up around 13,000. Yeah, I'm a murderer, but, you know, I'm hard times back in my country, so I thought I'd come over here and do a little stabbing myself. Think about that. You can see the numbers here, illegal immigration. And who's in her pocket? Who's in her side? People like Nancy Pelosi. Look at her net worth. She's a public servant. It just keeps going up. These 7 individuals here are more than likely the people that are actually, because, I mean, who's running the country right now as far as the president? These people are, in my opinion. It's not Biden. It's not Harris. And she wouldn't be running it anyway if she got it. I'll make a quick prediction. If it's fair, Trump will get over 100 million votes. I'm thinking 105. So that means they got to make up some ground. It's like they're going to have to produce like 70 falsified ballots. Ooh, that's a lot. But I don't think they're going to, even if it is a landslide, they're not going to allow certification. Mr. Ratskin here has already made those comments very clear that boo-hoo-hoo Trump supporters, when he does win, we're not going to certify, and then we all need bodyguards. Who, you? The traitors will need bodyguards. And how are they going to do that? Well, you know, Pentagon Directive 5240.01 allows the U.S. military to use lethal means against U.S. citizens when assisting police officers during riots. This directive also expands the scope of application of unmanned systems for the same cases. All over the country right now, we are seeing buildings being boarded up, especially D.C. They're putting rows of stuff that's beyond concertina wire. I mean, it's some nasty stuff. Why? Why would they be doing that? We already know. We know the answer. So, like I showed in that last slide, you look at all these illegals, even that 435,000 criminals. Which way do you think those criminals are going to vote? Which way do you think they're going to vote? And if you think you can vote, go ahead, vote. Can't show your ID, that's infringing upon somebody's voting rights to ask for their ID. And hey, because there's so many fighting age males that are illegals, they're horny. They're young guys. They need to get, pump out that piss and vinegar, man. The other thing that really grinds my gears is the people that are aligned with Miss Kamala. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And I think this is very important because you see the individuals that are promoting her. Like Harrison Ford's another one that just came out. All these people in the pretend world of Hollywood and entertainment, all here to entertain you, to keep you busy. With one hand, doing a magic trick, and the other one, fondling your kids. Fuck, Biden does it right on stage in front of people. Nobody says a damn thing. You've seen it. You've all seen it. He behaves inappropriate. And for somebody in a position like his, say what you will about Putin or Kim Jong-un, or pick any dictator that you see on a regular basis, even the Ayatollahs. I've never seen those evil bastards fondle children and women inappropriately while multiple cameras are rolling like I have with Joe Biden. And he gets away with it. And then you look at the people that support those policies and those politicians. That's these people right here. Perverts. And maybe not all of them. But I tell you what, if Barack Obama came over here today and was like, well, take a picture with me and my mom jeans, I'd say, no, thank you. Get off my property. You are a traitor. You are a traitor. And if Biden, well, he wouldn't get that close to my daughter to begin with. But if he did, that old man would get a 35% pop to his fucking dome. The other thing in here, you go, wow, why's that Baphomet demon up there? Well, I don't know. Baphomet, Baal, Moloch, Ishtar? Isn't Kamala Devi, I think is her middle name? Kamala Devi Harris, which is the same name, I believe, of a goddess in Hindu religion. If I'm not mistaken, I might be incorrect, but it's somewhere along those lines. And the behavior of these people, the charges that have been brought against somebody like Poopy, and that goes along with, kind of like Moloch, Ishtar, Baal, all these demons. Like also like the giant owl statue, Moloch, that's its name, in the Bohemian Grove. It's kind of a trend. Maybe, what's his name? Rockaware or Jay-Z. I don't even know one of Jay-Z's songs. He looks like the aliens from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He's just, I'm not impressed. Beyonce, any of them. LeBron James, give me a break. Hey, Jordan, though, did endorse Trump, which I thought was pretty cool. These people travel in dark circles and are connected to occult type activity. Be very careful what you are promoting, endorsing, or spending your money on, because it's promoting that demon, Baphomet, right there. And you see the children, because it's all about the children. That's why there's 325,000 missing children that came across the southern border that were in the hands at some point of U.S. government officials or NGOs, and we just lost them. That doesn't make any sense. Last thing before I go, joy. And right there in the middle, that's a propaganda poster from Mao. Oh, actually, I do have one other. I did show the copycat, because it had Stolen Valor on there. I didn't really touch on him too much, but that turd, Tim Walz, Stolen Valor. I would never trust anybody like that in that position of power. That man is a liar, and he is a communist CCP sympathizer and probably agent. He is compromised. They're all compromised. That's why some of these people on here in the group of seven haven't even retaken their oath to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the American people. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I hope and pray that we are able to right the ship. Hey, don't rock the boat, man. If the boat's going in the wrong direction, rock that damn boat. So, with that being said, I'm going to sign off for this Monday. And hopefully I have horrible internet, and I'm hoping that this thing will upload in the next 72 hours or so. I'll leave you with this song that I created. It's called Return of the Griff. I'll put the information out. Maybe I'll add that later in the description. But Godspeed to you all. And what an interesting time to be alive. Make sure if you haven't voted yet, that you do get some type of receipt or something saying who you voted for. And be safe out there. Record whatever you can. If something looks out of place, bring it up, record it, make a fuss. It's game time. Time to kick the tires, light the fires. Make sure your powder's dry, everybody. We'll see you next time, hopefully. Who knows? Might not even be here after tomorrow. This interview. This interview has actually been a long time in the workings.
It has been, yeah.
We've been talking about doing this for at least 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, and more recently the last year.
Yes, and I think it's awesome that it's kind of happening right when it is.
Oh yeah.
And for me personally, I think I wasn't going to do anything until after the election. And I planned on doing something before, then it kept snowballing, and it was like, what's going to happen the next shoe to drop? But after the assassination attempt, the first one that we actually know of, though it's a legit one on President Trump, I kind of felt like, you know what, this guy's got to get elected. And I'm not even a Republican, and I didn't even really like him that much, but it's the lesser of two evils for me at this point. One of the things that I noticed in the 2020 election, which is why you're here, is a lot of irregularities, things that did not make sense, things that most of us in our day-to-day life, we would say, that doesn't add up.
It's a flawed system.
Yes. It's a flawed system, and it's such a large system where it allows for multiple openings for corruption. And, I think finally we're at a point where a lot of people can finally see that, at least I hope, and that maybe we can overcome what, in my opinion, is
a deep state, an elitist group that kind of controls everything from behind the scenes and pushes we the little people kind of to the side. And I just, that's not what our country was founded on. They've completely disregarded the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to the point where people don't even know what their rights are.
Right.
So our greatest responsibility as Americans is to vote. That's our chance to essentially affect the system, because we are a representative republic. We are not a true democracy where we vote on every issue. We have people do that for us. But these people have, in my opinion, they have gone power hungry, a lot of them.
So we can count on your vote.
Yes, you can count on my vote.
Alrighty. And are you going to be doing that by mail?
I'm going to do it by mail. I'm going to do it by text. I think I'll also do it in person, any way I can. Vote often and as many times as you can, as the Democrats like to say.
Yes.
But that's enough of poking fun at them. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, even though I know you, but for the people that are watching, hopefully the tens upon tens of people that might watch this,
You never know.
if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and then just kind of how you progressed into working where you did with the Wisconsin Entertainment District. It's the Wisconsin Entertainment District?
Wisconsin Center District.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, born and raised. And so for those that don't know the city, we do have a very, how do you say, it's a busy lifestyle there. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot to survive there. And depending on the area that you're in, you might have to do a little bit more than others to get to where you want to be or where you should be.
So you grew up in the inner city?
I did. I'm an inner city kid. I'm still an inner city, just not a kid. I'm an adult now, obviously, but still from the inner city. And I don't think that's going to change in the next few years, but I mean, time will tell. But yeah, inner city, completed high school, got my diploma, and I entered into what I thought would be a lifelong career. I started when I was 18 at the Wisconsin Center District. I actually started not where I finished, so I started off smaller. It was guest relations, so just small things like, basic ushering, information about our city, greeting people, that kind of thing. I actually thought about leaving within my first 2 years. I said, I'm going to give them 2 years. And after that, I'm going to, pull the plug, because it just wasn't something that was going to fulfill me, something that wasn't going to lead me any further. So
before you were let go, and then also a follow-up question to that, before you were let go, what would you say your day-to-day tasks were?
Yeah, so my
and then I'm sorry, just to follow up.
Yeah.
If you could briefly describe what the district actually runs, what they handle, the buildings that are under their control as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the first year and a half there, I just was doing petty jobs, just greeting people and so forth. And I actually moved into a security department that was sprung upon me. I had no background. I didn't have much information on it, but that ended up turning into an almost 16-year career, which ended as of July 1st, for those who are unaware. But during that time, I was a part of a lot of different political events. And they had it's a district, entertainment district. So we hold a number of different events in regards to, shows and concerts and so forth. But they're in the last 5 years or so, about a year prior to COVID, we started holding more political events, started having more big names come through. So we've had former President Donald Trump there.
Can you tell us like who you've maybe not completely like rubbed elbows, but people you've been next to, maybe you were able to say hello, and meet?
I can
political people.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody who's come and had a rally there, gave a speech, whether they were there for a photo opportunity, they were just passing by, and we used to be a drop point for some, that may have been going to the Pfizer Forum, which is neighbor to us in the downtown area. So Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Donald Trump, some of our smaller, our governors, our mayors, Mr. Cavalier Johnson. Yeah, so just quite a few people.
So now, at the time of your release, was he the mayor when you were released?
Yes, yeah.
So, could you tell us? Did you go to school with him?
I did. I actually went to high school with him.
Okay, and this is, if you could just tell the folks who this is.
So this is the mayor for the city of Milwaukee, Cavalier Johnson. We went to Bayview High School together, and we actually completed a program through Sponsor a Scholar, which is a scholarship program that I started in 9th grade, and he was actually my mentor for 4 years during that program. So, and after you complete the program, you get a scholarship into your college, wherever you get accepted to.
Did he? I mean, do you know? Did he stay local? Was he always been a local guy?
Yeah, he's always been a local guy.
Okay.
Always.
And what is your feeling on him?
I mean, there are a lot of things that I feel, shifted from him coming in, and there were a lot of promises that he didn't fulfill. It's not hard to say. It's just sometimes they need a yes man.
Yeah. Okay. So you would say then he is somebody that maybe would be looked at as a political opportunist.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean,
Personally, I think all politicians to a certain degree are political opportunists. They're looking to move up in the ranks, so to speak.
They are. And I'm not saying that he's not a good person. He's not a good man. It's just there's a lot of things that our city truly needed during that time. And there were so many promises. And I think that his way of doing things was more so targeted towards areas that didn't need the assistance at that time. So our lower income areas need help. They really do. Our school system needs help. And we are catering to those who are living in condos, in $1 million properties, lakefront properties, downtown properties.
East side of town.
On the east side of town. So if you're not from Milwaukee, it is actually a very segregated city. So east side, depending on where you're at, it's towards the lakefront.
Yeah, I mean, I've told this story before on the podcast, but I mean, I was part of when I was a kid and going to school in MPS in 83, they were doing the desegregation of the inner city. So, I mean, I got bused from the south side all the way to the north side, and it was, I don't think it really helped much, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So you working in this capacity, security,
Right.
what type of background investigations, because of the people you were around, what type of qualifications, what type of people were investigating who you were? Like type of 3-letter agencies, police department? Can you tell us like?
Pretty much you name it. It was there. I had to have, for 2 of the events for sure, I had to have a Secret Service clearance. So I had to be cleared, had to have a background search. And during that time, during the DNC, we'll get more onto that. I actually had to go, you had to get through COVID screening because that's when COVID was around. You had to go through Secret Service. MPD was always there. You had to go through body searches on a daily. So, I mean, there were a number of things, but pre-prep, Secret Service was involved in a lot of that, yeah.
And obviously you're going to have an MPD, Milwaukee Police Department type of background investigation as well.
Correct.
And I mean, excuse me, were any of these clearances on a national level? I mean, obviously the Secret Service, but is that something that they do when they come into a city, or is that something that translate into some type of clearance? Do you know if it is for sure? Transfer over maybe to another job or?
No, so I wouldn't be able to transfer it necessarily. I mean, there are some things that I could transfer outside of what I was doing because I did get an additional clearance outside of that.
So just to kind of sum up everything, you've lived in Milwaukee your whole life.
Right.
you pretty much started this job from a young age and kind of grew up into it. And I would think most people would want to grow up in, a business where they can kind of call home and they can
Yeah, absolutely.
make a career out of it. So then take us to kind of the lead up, maybe a couple days before election, 4 years ago, November 5th, 4 years ago. What led up to that day? Anything specific that stands out in your mind? And then if you could take us through the events of that day.
So the elections themselves, I can't really say that there was anything quite specific. I mean, a lot of it was towards the end of everything. But during the elections themselves and the rallies that they had, we held the DNC there. Obviously, I had to have a Secret Service clearance for that. Like I said, it was during COVID, so we actually had to be COVID checked every day. Every day we got swabbed. There was not a day that goes by. You had to come in on your day off to get swabbed.
Really?
Yes. You had to come in on your day off, get swabbed, get cleared. Every day that you were coming in, we were walking. I mean, we were walking upward of about 8 blocks to get to where our offices were.
Mm-hmm.
And during those 8 blocks, you were screened about several different times from Secret Service, MPD, K9.
No, this is the lead up to the
This
election?
is during the DNC.
Okay, during
Yep,
the DNC.
this is the lead up towards it. And obviously with COVID happening, we didn't have the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was done virtually.
Yeah.
So we had a couple, local. We had our governor was there, mayor was there. I mean, there were a couple people from a few different other states that came in, but we didn't have any big names there on site. They just didn't show up.
It's just pretty much like you said, virtual.
It was virtual. It was too much of a risk, and I mean, I understood that. And then the election itself, what we thought ran smoothly. I mean, for the most part, it was the aftermath.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, there was a heavy cleanup on a lot of things. As you're familiar with, we had a recount. We had a hefty recount, which we held the recount as well. So
In the Wisconsin.
we held it in the Wisconsin Center.
Okay.
Yes, so we held the DNC there. They had the election. I'm not quite sure on the exact date of when the recount happened, but we did have the recount there. We were prepped for that as well, and just minor things, making sure that we were cleared again. So we did have Secret Service. We had armored trucks that were bringing in ballots. We had our local officers on site, paramedics, fire department. I mean, we used a lot of resources for a recount.
Mm-hmm.
But something a little bit odd that struck me was the recount that we held was filled with the individuals who were working the DNC. So everybody who was working the DNC, we saw them again at the recount, which means they didn't cycle new people through. They held that recount with the same people that were in charge of clearing everybody during the DNC.
So are these people employees with you, or are they like contracted out?
They're contracted out.
Do you know who the contracting office is?
I can't recall who that was. No.
So so there was like, do you know if it was anything like a labor ready where they're?
No, it was DNC. It's through the DNC campaign that
So they're the DNC contracted.
their
They
own,
contract these people to come in
Correct.
and help with the DNC,
Correct.
and then
and then those same people that were contracted and oversaw all of the leads that oversaw during the DNC were actually there at the recount, and they led the recount.
was there, excuse me, was there any type of pushback from anybody or any questioning as to why you would have, at a minimum, you would think you would want to have 50-50 representation in a two-party system? Was there any type of pushback?
There was definitely a bit of a pushback. I mean, there was pushback from our organization.
Mhm.
as a whole. I mean, obviously we had seen these people during the DNC and we had been prepping for months. We've seen these people, we know who they are. They're not new faces. So when they came back in, it was just a bit odd that they were coming back in for the recount as well. Like, I mean, you would think that those two things would have been separated,
Yes.
or you find a neutral party.
You sure as hell don't have one party take control of tabulating, thousands and thousands of votes that are, there's going to be a hefty amount that's from the other party. And personally, just from the stuff that I've seen and what we've seen early already in 2024, we've seen a lot of irregularities. We've seen a lot of votes being swapped, and it's good because we're kind of starting to see smoke.
Right.
And where there's smoke, there's fire usually. So, is there anything that happened in addition to that was out of the ordinary?
Well, there were quite a few things. So, like I mentioned, we had DNC staff that were running the recall, and that meant that they got to operate how they wanted to operate. They got to say how they wanted things set up. Anytime you had folks from the other party come in to question a ballot, to question anybody on the panel, it was they were escorted out. So yeah, it was. I mean, it was
Really?
yeah, it was a bit strange. I mean, there was a lot of chaos that went on up there. I mean, if you've never been to a recall event before, it does get pretty chaotic because obviously you have people from the other party that are watching each ballot go through, the signature, the names, the addresses. And there were a few times that people called out and they said, "Oh no, we've seen this information already." So
What would they do with it?
you'd have to stop the entire
Process.
and start it over again.
Was that taking place?
To my knowledge, that was taking place. That is not what struck a nerve in me. And what struck a nerve was, so this is something that I have not disclosed publicly. I know we've talked a little bit about it. There's only a handful of people that actually know about what I'm going to say, and I believe there's one person left who currently works for the district.
That was working when you were working that night.
Correct.
During the elections 4 years ago.
Yep, during the recall. And that I mentioned it to. Everybody else, I mean, there's like 4 people. I may have talked to 4 people between the district and my personal life. So I kept that very confidential. But during the recall event, I was actually part of bringing in ballots that were not on that armor truck, which meant I have no idea where these ballots came from. They came from the back of a lady's vehicle.
Who do you know? Is this something that you witnessed firsthand?
I was in the vehicle.
You were in the vehicle.
I was in the vehicle. I was called. So I'm actually a supervisor, and I was doing management work as well. I was called down to one of our main entrances. Now, mind you, the armored trucks had already been in for going on 48 hours. They were stored at a library. They were bought in. We were told nothing after that was supposed to be bought in. So all of these ballots came in. They came on the trucks. They had K9. They had MPD was there. They had a few Secret Service folks just watching everything. But I got called down. And then I was dispatched to do an escort. And she wanted to know where our docs were. I didn't think anything of it. I just said, "Yep, I can do that." I was instructed to get in the vehicle with the lady, and then when I got in the vehicle, I'm showing her around. Just casual talk about the city because we had to drive. It was about 2 city blocks to get to our dock. We're going up our dock. I had the clearance to get up there, so there was no question, and she didn't have to stop at Extra Place. I just had to call for that gate to be lifted so we can get up to the dock. And because I was management there, I had no further interactions that would prohibit her from coming up to
proceeding on to
bring in
drop
this.
these ballots.
Yes. In which I had no idea they were ballots until we actually got to the top of the dock. When we get up there, she's bringing out, it's a dolly. It's one of those retractable dollies you can fold up and down. And then she placed 4 large black crates full of ballots onto that dolly and said, we need to deliver these inside with the rest of the ballots.
Now, have you ever met this woman before?
Never met her. I don't even know her name.
So your supervisor instructs you
A VP.
to
A
escort this
VP of our company.
Have you ever seen this woman again?
Never seen her again.
Did you follow up with your supervisor, even just kind of half-heartedly, like, hey, that woman was kind of weird. Who is she, or anything like that?
I did question it. It kind of struck me at first because, I mean, my gut instinct was, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I also had that, you know, that ill feeling of, do you say something or do you not? I mean, we live in a world where if you say something, people go missing.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff happens.
Get canceled, and
Yeah.
that may sound, just excuse me, but a lot of people that may not mean much. But I mean, nowadays, I think it should, because you still can get canceled, lose your job. You could, you know, if they fully implement ESG, you say something wrong, like in China, you lose not only your job, you lose your ability to travel or
Yeah.
to go to a movie, or, you know, it's kind of like, it is the ultimate Big Brother. And
It is.
so how did you, like, what's going through your mind after you're all done with this shift? You know, the recount is over. What's going through your mind? Like, how do you feel about this? Like, is it like I've been betrayed, or I've been used, kind of? Or
I was definitely used.
Mhm.
I definitely was. I had disclosed a number of times, you know, within my department, and even when I would deal with Secret Service. And this isn't during the DNC. That's not my first time working with Secret Service. I had become a familiar face. They knew who I was. I've had multiple clearances. They knew who I was. But I mean, they just normal conversation you would have with people, with coworkers, with, you know, Secret Service, with MPD. You know, they would talk politics, small politics with me, because I don't really get too much into that, just because that's my personal business.
Mhm.
And then they would always get into the voting. Oh, it was heavy during DNC. They wanted to know whose vote was going where. And I was always very open on, well, I am on neutral grounds.
Like, these are coworkers or supervisors asking you directly, like, which way you're voting?
Both, absolutely.
And did you ever feel like threatened in a way that, because you may not be voting, or you may not be voting for who they want, that they were kind of aggressive in any way? or-
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How so?
Well, the VP that called me down that day, I mean, he was definitely a Democrat. He let that be known.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's fine. Everybody is entitled to their beliefs. That's why we have a system that allows you to vote.
Yep.
But he definitely, at any time you said anything about a Republican Party, a neutral party, it definitely struck a nerve. And, you know, the outburst about things such as, you know, wars and 9/11 and things like that.
Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the election comes and goes, Inauguration Day, and then after that, we start seeing
The recall.
the recall efforts, the states that are like, this doesn't look like on the up and up. What was happening at your work? Were you still on the same career path? Did anything change by you maybe doing something or letting people know that you did not feel right about maybe what happened? And so how did your work experience continue on from that point till you were let go?
Well, during that time, I also was on a career path change.
Okay.
I was actually very close to being sworn in for the Secret Service, which I don't announce publicly either. This is probably my first time talking about this publicly, and there's only, again, a handful of people know this. But I was going through. I passed my UED exam through Secret Service. I'd already had one of the clearances for it, and it was one more step to being sworn in, and I would have, I think, made a decision that would not have been so beneficial during that time. But I was on a career path change with them, so prior to the recall, I was already making moves to do that. And then the recall happened. Then I was part of bringing in ballots that were unaccounted for. And then I stopped the complete process of joining the Secret Service. I dropped out.
Are you saying that what you witnessed kind of led to that decision?
It absolutely did. It did.
Why do you feel like that? Like what is it specifically that?
Well, I mean, for some people, taking an oath and then lying on top of that is okay. And for some people, it's not. Like
regular politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And I just wanted to, because I don't think there's definitely not enough of that in politics where people have, I mean, it seems like they lose their conscience as soon as they get sworn in, and whatever they told their voters they were going to do, they get to Washington and it's immediately, no, this is how things work. Are you going to do things our way? You're not going to get money. You'll be gone in 4 years. Goodbye.
Right.
Thanks for playing.
Right. And I wasn't going to be that little person. I just wasn't.
So I'm sure you knew a lot of the people you worked with. Maybe a lot of the people that were underneath you, or maybe your peers that worked there on election night 4 years ago. Did any of those people stay around? Did most people like you that were working at that time, did they meet the same fate, or is anybody still working there from 4 years ago?
There are a number of people that were equal to or under me that are still there. So anybody in a management position, a VP position, there were drastic changes during COVID, during that election time, during the recall. There were a number of people during, I want to say it was might have been two or three separate occasions where there were rooms of employees called in and dismissed. They were termed.
Really?
Yes.
Like a mass fire, just a mass firing?
Correct.
Was there anything specific about their firings? Did this have anything to do with their involvement or them being there for the election 4 years ago, or handling it, or?
I can't say that there's a correlation between the two, but I can say there were a number of big employees, people that had been there for, I mean, almost on the verge of retiring. We had about 3 people who were within their year of retirement.
And they let them go. And that's not, because it does have the name Wisconsin in it. It's not, and it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but is that, I mean, would you be getting a state pension from that entity?
Well, it depends on when you join, but anybody who was that close to retirement, they would be. And I was actually grandfathered in the last year before they switched that. So I will definitely be getting some kind of pension.
So now fast forward to just maybe a couple weeks building up to when you got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Trump had just had an assassination attempt on his life, and the RNC is going to be held in Milwaukee.
Same place. Yes.
Can you kind of walk us through that? Like what led up, and what kind of were there any signs, or did you just get blindsided?
I thought I was blindsided, but I actually wasn't. And I was mad at myself for a while, and I was mad at them for a long while too, just because I did feel blindsided. But then I took a look back at it, and I'm like, you know what? There were so many things that um, they should have done differently if they were going to let me go. I mean, I was just shy of 1 month of my 16 years with the district. I was I was in a management position. I was on the verge of taking on a new role. I did all the company-wide facility trainings. Um, but prior to me leaving, or prior to me being let go, I should say, termed, uh, they did a number of just really silly things. You know, they had somebody come from a different shift. It was second shift, and I mean anybody in the entertainment industry knows that those hours are peak hours for events, and they moved a full-time supervisor off of that shift to come to first shift when we had already had enough people, which left them wide open on second shift. And I just, you know, I questioned it at first, and then I'm like, well, maybe they're making some good moves. You know, maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But now that I look back at it, they had my replacement
Already there.
shadowing me for 4 weeks before they let me go.
And they never let you know before that we're going to be terminating you. They just
No, they didn't. And I actually wrote, I wrote the department's policies and procedures. I wrote them all myself, published them all myself. They had to get sent through the CEO of the company for approval. I had been doing that for a number of years. But I wasn't quite finished. I was probably maybe 2 weeks worth of work before it would have been where I wanted it to be. But it was finished enough for them to request it without it being done. So this was a just shy of 400-page document that I completed. I was revising it. I was doing a final revision. And then I gave them a hard copy because the digital copy would mean it's done and you can distribute it. I gave them a hard copy to look over, make any changes. I can, you know, fix it up from there. 3 weeks prior to me being let go, they asked for the digital copy. And they said, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We want this, and I want it today. And I didn't, like I said, these were things that I didn't necessarily think too much of.
Was there anything that would have given them ammunition to let you go, or do you think this may have been? And I don't want to feed into anything, but because of my background as well, it seems kind of like this is closing all windows that may have left open, and we're about to have a storm. So we need to close all these windows and close all these loopholes and make sure there's nobody around that was here 4 years ago that said, hey, you know what? This looks familiar. This looks like this happened before, and something's not right. Maybe then somebody might really cause a mess. Does that seem plausible, or maybe
It does. It does. I mean, they used a really generic wording on my termination documents. I was deemed untrustworthy and no longer an asset to the company. And they used a small incident of me losing some papers from an event that had expired, and we're talking about like 30 days expired, which we would toss documents. We shred them, toss them, get rid of them. But they used that as their crutch to let me go. And then they ended up getting the documents that day anyway. So they had them the whole time. I mean, they were definitely misplaced. And I have to take responsibility for that. They were definitely misplaced. But that was not reasonable grounds for termination.
especially because of, I mean, just the people you've worked around, and you were entrusted with their security, you have to pay for training. You have to pay for background investigations. You have time invested in this person. They know the facilities. They know the workings of the actual company or entity itself. And to just to let somebody go now is that considered within the organization itself? Is that considered what you just described? A very steep violation of their ethics or whatever, or
It definitely is.
it is?
It
Okay.
is. It is. And
But you did say that they received the paperwork that day that they asked for it,
they did.
and they still fired you.
Correct. And they opened an investigation on me for I had taken 6 days of vacation time. That was my what I would consider my Friday anyway. And they had me go talk to people, and I said, well, I explained to them everything that happened, produced the documents, and the whole time during my 6-day vacation, they had an investigation going
On you
on me,
while you're on vacation.
and I had no knowledge.
Really?
I had to reach out to my HR department and ask them what was going on, because I was getting blocked from my emails.
Mhm.
And, it was the slow
They
shutdown
were, They were
effect.
slowly starting to shut down.
They were closing
systems.
tabs,
Yeah.
correct. They were. And then they offered me a meeting, a 3:30 meeting, which I've been a part of hundreds of those 3:30 meetings. 3:30 on a Friday.
It's termination.
It's a termination meeting. And 3:29 hit. And I had no longer had access to my company email. And I knew they called me. It was 3:30, like 3:32. And they called me, and I said, I guess I'm fired, ain't I? I said, it's okay. I said, you guys can just let me know. I said, am I being fired? And they said yes.
And that's when they told you that this is based on.
They did not
True.
say that's what it was based on, no.
What did they tell you when they fired you?
They just said that they didn't like the verbiage in how I described the situation of documents. And that was their reason. And but on paper it says deemed untrustworthy and no longer an asset to the company.
Now, do you have a HR department, or did you have an HR department?
Yes,
Did they say anything, or
they did. They were very remorseful. These were women that I was extremely close with over the years. Anybody I've worked with there will tell you that they've had a really close relationship with me. I think I knew everybody's phone number by heart, the spelling of everybody's name, things
so
like that.
what did your coworkers think? When you got terminated? What did they think, and your peers?
Well, they actually did not disclose me being termed for almost 3 weeks
To anybody else?
to anybody else.
So I imagine what did your people that what did they say? Like, they're not saying anything about you.
Well, people started reaching out to me after like week 2 because I had 6 days off vacation time prior to that, so it had already been like close to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
By the time people started, trying to ask what's going on and where are you at and how are you? Is everything okay? And I actually did not say anything because I did not know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed time. So I actually didn't say anything to anybody. But I mean, people talk. People are going to show you information. And there were hundreds of concerned employees, from VPs all the way down. There were 5 people that knew I was termed for almost 3 weeks.
And those are all like supervisor positions, or
VPs, and then the one of the managers within the department as well.
so I mean, well, I know, but have you seek or sought any legal advice or anything as far as?
I won't go too much in depth on that.
Okay.
Yeah, not too much in depth. I mean, like I said, I can disclose that they did not properly inform employees. I mean, you'd think after 16 years that they would give them some kind of, you know, information on what is going on, and they did not. And I'm not saying that that's something that they had to do, but as a courtesy, that's something that you should do. I mean, they take pride in being a great company, so
Professional.
professional. Yeah,
It's not very professional just to fire somebody and not really give them a concrete
Yep.
definition. Even for a person that's only been there maybe a year, but you're talking about, you know,
almost 16 years.
16 years.
2008, August 14th, 2008. And from August 14th, 2008 until the day I was termed, I've never had a disciplinary action taken against me. I've never been disciplined. Ever.
Mhm.
I've never had a write-up or a suspension or anything.
So, with all this being said, what is your feeling about the upcoming election? I'll say this first. What is your opinion about the upcoming election? And I'm just going to assume that the same process is going to take place
Oh, yeah.
in the same,
Yes, it is.
underneath the same supervision that it was, minus you being there. But the same company, same organization will be handling southeastern Wisconsin's ballot counting once again,
Yes,
or at
they
least for the metro area of Milwaukee.
They will. And I mean, they'll have a few new faces. There was a new face. There was a new VP. He's actually the one that termed me. He'd come from one of our sister companies that is close by. We don't operate the facility, but we own the property.
You're talking about
The
the
Pfizer form, correct. Correct. So, I mean,
which is
everybody.
where the Milwaukee Bucks
Milwaukee
play the
Bucks.
NBA.
Yeah. But anybody in that entertainment industry in our downtown area knows each other. They all know each other. Everybody has met each other. We've all done trainings together. So, I mean, him coming in and his claims were he didn't know anything about our facility and how we operate and none of our staff. It was BS. I mean, he knew people. He wouldn't have been able to get in if he didn't. So, but he'll be there. I mean, I'm assuming he's still going to be employed during that time. But they're going to have some difficulties. They're going to have quite a few challenges coming their way with this election. And I mean, depending on what the outcome is, there may or may not be a recall. And if there is, it may not be as big as it was before. It all just depends on how. I mean, we can't really tell until the election's done.
Yeah, I, you know, from my perspective, you know, and knowing that you know the way I feel about how things are going, and for you to actually witness it firsthand, and see the inner workings of the machine, and it's one snapshot of one metro area in a country that's got 30 metro areas just like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the most part, most metro areas in this country, I can't really think of any city that leans, conservative, I guess you could say. Maybe Salt Lake City, I guess you can kind of say, but even them, they've got a lot of people that moved in from California. But so you're getting a snapshot of one area of the country, and the corruption is real. And I want to thank you for your time
Absolutely.
in doing this.
Yeah.
And I think it, maybe it would help some people just to kind of like, look, this stuff is real. And I'm not even trying to sway anybody which way they vote. I mean, but it really is like, you want a rotten apple or you want an apple that, it may be a little mushy, but you can still eat it. I'm not eating the rotten apple. I just can't stomach it.
No.
And we really are. It's beyond rotten. I mean, it's rancid. And those are unfortunately our choices. And with that being said, I want to thank my sister for
Absolutely.
coming in and doing this interview. And hopefully it'll inspire some people to really pay attention to what they're doing when they vote. Make sure you get a receipt. Make sure you see the name that you chose is actually, in fact, the name on the receipt. And
Correct.
hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, we won't be in some gulag
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I encourage anybody who has, been through a similar situation or, has been withholding information. I mean, I truly had to learn. I know I've told you, I truly had to learn not to have that fear to talk. I mean, it
Yeah.
took, it took years for this to transpire into an actual conversation, to get the timelines, to make sure that I'm there 100%, that my information is not dishonest or flawed in any way.
Mm-hmm.
It's truthful. There's injustice within our system, and it's unfortunate. But like you said, we're one city. I am one person that has this information. Now, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Adding those totals.
And like, we're both from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee has somewhat of a inferiority complex at times because of its big brother to the south, Chicago.
Yes.
Always wanting to emulate Chicago style politics, and it's unfortunately ugly, because what that means then is you're going to get a little here, you're going to get a little kickback here. You just play the game. You play the game how we play it, and we'll take care of you. You'll get a little scratch. You'll be taken care of. You'll be sitting in that commissioner's chair or alderman's chair for years to come. And I, for one, it's what kept me from going back to Wisconsin. But last words of wisdom, do you have anything to say you kind of already said it, but
Yeah,
for anybody else that's in that position, like that you were put into, any words of encouragement for them?
Just be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with people. And, learn forgiveness. I mean, at the end of the day, something dramatic and foul did happen, but learn forgiveness in your heart. It'll help you, transpire your words into something a little bit greater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that, thank you. We're going to wrap it up, and hopefully we can get you back in here soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Becky and Chad did not make it.